Mirrors and Dreams, Book 2 of the Unseen Scar series, written and narrated by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 33. An amused smile filled his face. You really love entering through windows, don't you? No fair! Oya stretched long and yawned. Wild green eyes fell on the little bar in his hand. She didn't ask permission, just looked over his shelves and grabbed one from his stash. Before he could stop her, she was chewing it. Her face twisted. Ugh, this is disgusting. Those aren't made for a general palate. They suit my tastes. Oya gave him a strange look, but didn't comment. Instead, she finished the bar, face scrunched until it was gone, and tossed the wrapper away. I'm bored. Come play with me. One moment. Ferdinan deleted the list. His funds, creations, and research were set up to automatically send to those he'd chosen once he was officially listed as deceased by his government system. He couldn't keep himself in control, and he refused to live with Emil again. Oya played with the chain around her neck. You're taking too long. Race you to my island? See if you can beat me this time. And for Oya, one more play day. There's nothing she needs from my inventions, but one more day of fun. I can give her that. We can build a fire, and I'll play every song I know for you. A blood-red eyebrow rose at that offer, then a playful smirk split her face. Catch me if you can! Oya leapt out the window, Ferdinan on her heels. They were both soaring as they placed goggles and masks. Bright oranges and reds filled the horizon as they flew spirals around each other, laughing and playing. The game continued as Oya led him farther and farther out across the empty ocean and back again. They spun and weaved around nearly every island between the main one and his. Colors faded, giving way to a sea of stars. The moment Oya's bare feet touched sand, she was off. Unlike before, he caught up to her easily, then passed her. An adrenaline-filled cry left her as she leaned forward, but she couldn't catch him, so he turned and attacked. Is she slower, or am I faster? What exactly did this chemical do? Even his awkwardly tight clothing didn't give her an advantage. He bested her easily, and when she bolted away, he caught her swiftly. He wanted to keep fighting, keep running, keep filling that impossible void whenever she touched him. But he wore her down, until she couldn't do more than sit there panting, laughing breathlessly. Time for the fire, then. Beautiful exotic green eyes watched him carry up the logs and brush. They brightened with the fire, and they glistened when he struck the first note on his violin. She clapped and laughed, and when she recovered from their battle, she danced. How did she do this? Being around people always left him uncomfortable, but not her. He'd never looked forward to seeing anyone before her. Never waited, hoped, wanted. His heart ached and melancholy filled those notes. That wasn't true. There was one other before her. One he failed. He destroyed. Pushing those memories aside, he pulled all the joy and energy that was Oya into a song. He wouldn't ruin any more of this night for her. Song after song, she grinned and cheered and jumped with delight. She's beautiful. Getting our farms up and running again will be harder than we expected. An older man with snow-white hair gave his concluding topic. There just aren't enough people able to do the kind of work necessary. Did any of our farmers survive? It took weeks of pestering, but Zhao's mom finally let him help Mr. Letici with this one project. When it came to planning and development of social initiatives, the man was invaluable. No one matched Mr. Letici's insight, save his predecessor, who taught the man everything. No, sir. There wasn't a farmer left to bring in the last harvest. Most of the crops died in the ground. Then how about people from other countries? Zhao started. We don't need experienced farmers. Anyone willing would be given training, help relocating, and as much land as they can handle. That's not a bad idea. I can't guarantee there'd be enough to get our country self-sufficient. Still, it's a start. I'll pass along that suggestion to the Nuwa. I'll continue considering other options. Zhao's mind turned instead of listening to the advisor's response. There were rumors that, if true, could provide stability for two countries and possibly form an alliance that had never been achieved before. Mr. Letici. Yes, sir? The famine in North Chuzo, have we confirmed that? Unofficially. Unofficially? How bad are things if they're isolating? North Chuzo was ruled by a strange, twisted kind of pride, which clashed with many nations, but their people always came first. Duchess Samult is the head of the primary branch family. We should reach out to her. Request farmers in exchange for a percentage of food produced. Reducing the number of mouths to feed and increasing their food supplies while appearing charitable would be appealing. The older man fell silent for a moment, thinking. Dealing with the Duchess wasn't easy. Between her personality and the cultural differences, contentions were a guarantee. But if they were facing intense enough famine for the devastated Azute to hear about it, that's a good idea. I'll draw up an offer and discuss it with the Nuwa this evening. Let me know if there's anything I can do. Thank you, sir. Enjoy your studies. Mr. Letici bowed and closed out the screen. Zhao would think more about that later. Right now, he had another project he couldn't stop. All those hours sifting through files from the children's hospital, there were so many, none of which should ever get out. Whoever encrypted the data understood this, and there were few people who could get past the protocols, even fewer who could decrypt the information. But if it'd been done once, it could be done again. Saving the pilfered data to an external storage unit, Zhao went to work. As payment for all he did for my country, I'll make sure he maintains his anonymity. When it came to security protocols and hacking, Zhao's mom was the best. But viruses, not a single one of Zhao's had been discovered. None of them were bad, and developing them wasn't something he'd ever teach to anyone. But the security they provided wasn't something he could give up, especially considering the rough decades ahead for his country. Okay, time to do what you do best. Tapping the screen, Zhao unleashed a small virus. This was a targeted program that only destroyed what it was told to, then self-destruct. Indiscriminately eradicating information from a hospital system was wrong, immoral. But specific information the hospital no longer needed, that was a probable gray area at best. Sitting back, Zhao kept tabs on his program, ready to stop it if something went wrong. Blue-black eyes turned to the external storage with his copy of the data. Should he get rid of this too? But it was truly isolated, unlike the hospitals. As long as the information existed anywhere, it could hurt his younger charge. But he couldn't. If he did, it was like denying the skeleton's suffering. As Zhao mused, something occurred to him. The thought of Ferdinan didn't make him angry. There was no blame or burning in his chest. But after seeing all that, even his bitter heart couldn't hold on to it anymore. He couldn't deny the truths he knew. The Tinkerer couldn't leave someone behind. Ferdinan would die trying to reach them. I expected him to give more. I really am selfish. What did Zephyr mean by duel? Reaching down, Oya flicked at the water. Hopefully this wasn't another problem she had to deal with. Now that she had a moment to just lay back and think. That wound on his belly. I watched it burst from the inside out. What happened? When there's nowhere for an infection to drain. The fisherman sighed. It grew till it broke through the confines of his soul. So, what do I do about that? Is that why he ran off the cliff smiling? He didn't even think about it. When you repress things you can't handle. The fisherman turned stern eyes to her. Do you understand my warnings concerning Zephyr now? My dear lamplighter, how long till you can no longer keep up with your turning world? Laughter rang out, but nothing was funny. I warned Zephyr, yet I didn't see it myself. Zephyr's infections hadn't done near the same damage. Hasn't it? Shaking his head, the fisherman continued. You've seen his hands. Yes. Twisted, tortured hands darkened from infection, wasting to nothing. Oya sat up. I understand Ferdinand's wounds, his heart, mind, belly. I understand Zephyr's eyes and stomach. But his hands? Why his hands? What do our hands allow us to do? How important are they to someone like Zephyr? I see. Oya opened the way to the Silver Roads. Itano's successor was safe for now, as was her dear friend. Yu was good for a while, now to check on Zephyr, then return to collecting connections. I won't let another sanctuary fall. Fisherman. Yes? Turning, Oya looked the man in the eyes. Considering how I look, what'll happen to the Moatono when I finish? The same thing that always happens to the Moatonos. And Tono. Slowly, Oya nodded, sorrow dimmed in human green eyes. Please make sure it's a blissfully happy life. I think Tono earned it after all these years. When Ferdinand's stomach grumbled again, John offered him more. Eating in his suite felt odd, but no one would look for him here. And when was I here last? Like Oya, John didn't need anything from him. But he'd troubled his ally nearly as much as his cousin, so he'd give John this. An easy meal without complaint or resistance or inconvenience. It didn't matter anyway. He'd never appear before the Duchess again. Edging a toe against the bag next to his chair, Ferdinan felt resistance from the container inside it. It was one of the many things he put on the list for Grandpa Huey to send. No one knew he had it, which made it perfect. Smiling, he nodded and thanked John. Leave now so I can cancel my session with Elby. Everything else was done. Or it would be once his ally left. The room blurred and Ferdinand's face contorted. Why? Dropping the fork, he left the kitchen and hid in his bedroom. Feeling too happy or too excited was fine. But this? Ferdinan, are you okay? I loathe that question. Stop asking me. I'm fine. Ferdinand's voice came out high and his body convulsed as he fought back sobs. You're crying. What's wrong? What have I done? Ferdinan brushed tears away and turned to the window. Cold numbed him. I've killed so many. Even now he was still hurting people. He'd wait for break. But how many more would he hurt? What if he changed his mind? And swimming until he drowned. He wouldn't suffer nearly enough to pay for his crimes. He didn't need that voice to know how grievous his sins were. He needed a death just as painful as all he'd caused. John was right. This has to stop. I should have stopped it then. I was foolish for thinking I could find another end. Drying his face, he turned and bowed. I'm sorry for troubling you. You're back? It was rude, but Zephyr didn't stand to greet her. You disappear after letting me see that? Then don't return till I know it's real? Did you learn something important? Zephyr turned his anger and bitterness toward the full moon. What's a duel? The thin string holding back his flood snapped. Everything bubbled up. Hate, anger, frustration, weakness, like acid fizzing and expanding, burning him from his soul up. The elf sat beside him. Speak. I've been handed everything, been gifted in so many ways, and I don't deserve any of it. I haven't earned anything. Drawing his legs to his chest, Zephyr buried his head in his knees. Strained words came out embarrassingly high. What kind of person can do that? What kind of person? Then lock it away like it doesn't exist, like I was perfect, and blame him for all of it. A general serves and protects, but all I did was tear him down. Every day. I stole everything from him, and he apologized to me. Every time. So you'll sit and cry? Doesn't a general's power come from action? Don't they protect by doing? No matter how difficult, how far beyond them. The elf raised a hand and waved it. 2 dressing mirrors appeared, standing side by side. This isn't a volcano you can rake out. What does that mean? Why does she keep saying strange things? But it wasn't important. His hands accentuated the frustration filling him. How do I fix this? Fix yourself. A gentle expression greeted him when he looked up. How? Face those 2 mirrors. It'll fix me? It'll give you the truth you've been avoiding. I can't. Every time I look for answers, a nail pierced his tongue and hands. Pain warned you something's wrong. What's it telling you? The pain that's always been with you. Tears blurred the twilight beach. He hid behind his hands so he couldn't see. Hiding fixes nothing. Leaders face problems head on. No, I don't want to know how much worse I am. What kind of man will you become? I can't do it. Sand shifted as the elf stood. Giving you a chance was foolish. The farther away she moved, the more his heart raced. Abandoned. Again. No, please, don't leave me. Why should I stay? Her question sounded like a challenge. You said you'd help me. Zephyr shifted to his knees and leaned forward, bowing to her. I don't want to be that monster. Then don't. Trembling, heart pounding, the prince searched for any resolve left inside him. I don't want to see any more. Pushing himself to his feet. I don't want to know how terrible I am. One steady, halted step at a time, he approached the mirrors. I don't want to see who I am. Onyx's eyes closed and refused to open. His own voice called out from in front of him, mocking him. What are you waiting for? What are you scared of? I'm scared of you. A golden fist bobbed, then pointed toward the voice. But you created me. Or maybe I created you. What a terrifying thought. Do it. Zephyr forced his eyes open. In each mirror was a different figure. One was the veiled, chained figure who gave him the key for the locked door. The other was one with a mask over his face. Who are you? The mask reflection answered, I'm the one who is seen. I'm the one who is hidden, the chained reflection added. Then who am I? Both reflections brought their hands together before pointing at him. I'm becoming what? Becoming us. Again, they brought their hands together, only they pointed at each other. No, I refuse, I hate you. Zephyr growled out those last 3 words. Every fiber in his being hated them. The 2 in front of him, and the 1 in front of them. Stop bothering me. The reflections laughed. We can't. We are you. The masked reflection stated. More accurately, you are us. The chained one laughed again. Ice crawled down Zephyr's spine. I refuse to be you. I'll destroy all of us first. The 2 laughed. How? Teeth bare, Zephyr unleashed his fury, shattering both mirrors. Countless shards pierced the sand at his feet. Sapphire eyes watched, but not greedily or amused. They just watched. His heart slowed. Now what? That was too easy. There wasn't time between that realization and the grating laughter to react. Hands grabbed him from either side, dragging him back. Thank you, the chained one chuckled. Why hate us for your actions? The masked reflection tightened his grip, sending shooting pains up Zephyr's neck. Ice settled in Zephyr's gut. My actions. I have no right. Then why hate us? The masked one interrupted. All 3 of us. The veiled figure clarified. Consider carefully. The elf woman approached, face giving away nothing. Your answer determines your future. Looking from one self to the other, Zephyr searched, but couldn't find an answer. Seconds ticked by. No matter how many times he looked between them, none came. The reflections leaned in, pressing down on him. Onyx's eyes, one set partially veiled and the other framed by a mask, got closer. They have Ferdinand's eyes, which means... I do too. Memories of when he was the maddest flashed around him, completely out of control. Dizzy, disoriented, Zephyr fought to escape. Escape the memories, the reflections, himself. Why do you hate us? The reflections crowded in. They stepped closer and asked again, and again, and again. They grabbed him and repeated their demands. Golden hands pressed against his head. He didn't want to say it. He knew, had known for some time, but saying it. Opening his mouth, the answer came out quieter than a whisper. I'm a failure. Those nearly inaudible words screamed across the twilight beach. They weren't loud, but saying them, giving them existence. That act made them powerful beyond his control. Zephyr turned to the veiled, chained reflection. You were created because I'm a failure. Turning to the other, he added, You were created to hide him from me. That's why I hate all of us. The chained one smiled and both released him before fading out of existence. A delicate hand mussed Zephyr's thick black hair. I'm responsible for my cousin. I made him what he is. The elf nodded. Why do you hate him? I feel sick. Because he believes he failed me, and won't be persuaded otherwise. Good. What are you going to do about it?